Luke Beckman from Central Valley Ag is our corn and soybean market analyst this week. U.S. exports during January saw a sizable increase compared to January 2016. Data released last week shows American corn shipments were nearly 72% higher than the previous year. Japan was the top destination for the month, but Mexico remains #1 for the October through January timeframe. Soybean exports in January were up 25% from a year ago. From October through January, China accounted for almost 73% of American bean shipments. But another supplier is coming online, and its crops are projected to be big. The U.S. Department of Agriculture last week increased its estimate for Brazil's soybean output from 104 million metric tons to 108. And it boosted the country's corn total 5 million metric tons to 91.5. We talked with Luke Thursday morning and started by asking for an overview of the record crops in Brazil.
Well, right now everything is in good shape. USDA bumped their numbers a week ago for both corn and soybeans. Corn crop in Brazil, a lot of that's rooted in their second crop, which they just got done planting really in February. So it's a little bit early to say that it's a slam dunk that the production is going to be there. Acres were up for second crop corn in Brazil. And as of right now, the yield is substantially higher than a year ago. And of course, the crop's still growing. So April will be important for Brazil's second crop corn. Typically, that's when we see that crop pollinate. Bean yields in both countries, Brazil and Argentina, have been very good. Argentina is looking to get started anytime now, and that harvest window is drawn out over the course of a couple months.
Those USDA projections last week, how much did they impact the slide in prices that we've seen since they came out?
Yeah, I mean, really between the USDA, between some South American reporting agencies really upping production for both countries, certainly. I mean, fundamentally, it continues to look burdensome. U.S. had good crops, and Brazil and Argentina are set to have monstrous crops as well. So certainly contributed. Technically, we just kind of ran out of steam, and we're in that 2 to 3 week window between the March report and the planting intentions and stocks reports, what's going to happen at the end of the month.
What do you think we'll see in that grain stocks report first?
Certainly a lot of grain, right? We're going to have a lot of beans. I think it's going to show us that there's probably not a lot of farm beans left. A lot of the beans are in commercial hands at this point, with the prices being elevated from November through recently. Farmers have had a great opportunity to get rid of old crop beans, and they have. Corn, I think you're going to see heavy corn stocks both on farm and in commercial hands. You're going to see a lot of corn in the western corn belt, which is going to hit home for our producers.
So no hope for real basis improvement then maybe, huh?
Well, we've been talking to our producers a little bit about that recently. I think that this pullback in prices has been to the benefit of producers to hopefully see that basis firm back up. There has not been a lot of farmers selling in the past couple weeks, so you maybe see an opportunity to see basis firm up here for the last half of March, first part of April, especially as we get into planting. But summer months, I think the end user knows that the corn is there, and they're not going to get too excited about getting out there and firming their bids up. So producers need to be vigilant. If we do see some basis improvement, that's when you start to have conversations about basis contracts, some way to eliminate the physical price risk that they have on the farm.
What cash price would be attractive right now for you?
That's a tough question just because the basis is going to dictate so much of that. If you can eliminate that basis risk, those numbers are going to be softer than what these producers are used to for this time of year and even for the summer. So we're optimistic, though, as you talk about the Board of Trade, that we can see corn on the July board trade north of 4 at some point. We're entering the 2 season, too wet, too dry, too slow, too fast, those types of things. So we're optimistic we'll see the board give us some opportunities with July futures above 4, and you can't write that bean crop off ever, really. So too much production risk in front of us to say that we won't have opportunities.
That new crop, where do you like some possible selling opportunities? I know the last time we talked, you thought if we could get new crop above 4, which we got to, you might pull the trigger. Expand.
Yeah, I mean, great opportunity to have made some of those sales when D's corn climbed above 4. If we get back up there, if guys miss the boat, certainly take a chance and lay some risk off. 410, 415, you know, about every dime that we climb above 4, producers need to be thinking hard about that. Look at the balance sheet. You know, it tells us that we're going to be pretty cozy. So there's a lot of money out there, though, too, looking for a home. A couple weeks ago, when we had the ethanol story, you saw how explosive the market was. There's a lot of money that wants a story in commodities. So producers just need to have a plan as we get into this seasonal time period where we see commodities rally, and be ready to execute when the market presents that opportunity.
You feel in general that this is just a different environment for the markets than it was maybe a year ago?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got South America's crop that's in great shape. A year ago it was trending in the wrong direction. We were talking about La Nina a year ago for the U.S. This year, I think there's a 50% chance that we see El Nino, which is favorable to Midwest crops. And you've also got the money situation. The funds were short a year ago. We've already been long, and we're actually coming back from that. So the market, even though the price of corn is very similar to what it was a year ago, Jeff, the market's very different than it was last year. So seasonally, though, we're getting into that friendly time period.
Finally, March 31st reports on prospective plantings. Your educated guess?
I think corn acres maybe don't go as low as everyone thinks. 90 million is probably the floor. If we're even a little higher, I would not be surprised. We're certainly going to grab bean acres. We're going to steal those from wheat for sure, and some from corn. So, 88, 87, somewhere in there for beans, 90, 91 on corn.